Do you have any evidence that he was not crucified on the cross? Sorry, my bad.
The evidence is that basically there's no information about Jesus on this earth where they say he was crucified. That was all made up. I worship God in spirit and in truth.
You're a Christian?
See, the thing is that when you think about God, right, on a whole, and he governs everyone on the earth, could it be that man created religion, brother? I just want to see if you could use that mind that you have and think about it. We got one God, and he's the God of all. Would man create a tradition that would separate man from God? Yes. And that thing that they would use is religion, right? That's separatism. God is unity and love.
Okay, and so where would you find that?
Where would you find God?
Yeah, I mean, see, your paradigm that you're talking about, where would you find that? Do you draw from the scriptures, from the Bible, from the Quran? What's your place of authority that you would draw from?
Awesome. So you got to remember this. The Bible reads, "My sheep hear my voice." The Quran says to wait for the prophets and believe in the prophets in the last days. It's every book points to the Son revealing himself in the last days. So as you stated up here, is Jesus God according to the Bible, right? Jesus is not God. Remember, so God is spirit. God is spirit, right? And Jesus would represent flesh, correct? So the two would intertwine when the Creator would put his spirit in that vessel. So just like Noah was created by God.
Real quick, just so I know your position, yeah? You believe in multiplicity of books, right? Of different authoritative books, so to speak. So you believe that the Quran is true, you believe that the Bible is true. Is that where your position is so far? I'm just trying to understand where you're coming from.
Good question. That's a good one. Yes, the books are true. It's man's interpretation of the books that are incorrect.
Okay. So with the Quran and with the Bible, we'll just use these two books, right? How would you define truth?
Truth would be the Son of Man revealing himself in the flesh. So just think of it this way. The devil deceived the whole world, right? He deceived the whole world. Now we got to ask ourselves, how did we get the truth if the devil deceived the whole world? God said that he was going to send one mediator between God and man, and God would choose who he is. That's why he tell us not to have any images of this choice, because it's going to be his choice, not man's choice. So what man did was gave us images of God, right? They gave us the story of God when we were supposed to wait on the Lord to get the true understanding about God, because the devil deceived the whole world. So in the last days, God would choose a vessel to put his spirit in, right? Not 2,000 years ago, and we're still sinning today. In these last days, he would choose a vessel to put his spirit in.
Okay,
and that spirit.
Just so we're not, just
in these last days
for long periods of time. I want to be able to engage. Cool.
So okay, truth, I'm sorry, brother.
No, that's all good. That's all good. So with truth, right? Is it something that needs to be exclusive?
It has to be, right? Because if everyone had the truth right now, wouldn't we all be in a perfect place?
All right, awesome. So then we would have to define truth as something that would, what would be? Something that isn't a lie, it's facts, it's reality. So we would understand that truth by its own definition, it needs to be exclusive, right? So if the sun rises and it sets, that's a truth, right?
Correct.
So we know that to be true. It doesn't happen any other way. And we know that by time. We've been able to track that over time, right? It's a scientific fact.
Oh
So
no, you can see that. You can bear witness to
yeah,
it.
absolutely.
So
We can
not
bear
track
witness
it
to it,
over.
right?
Yeah, yeah,
And
yeah,
so the
yeah.
reason why I'm asking about truth being exclusive, if there are two contradicting statements in these two books, one says one thing and another says another, that's the total opposite. Two books can't be the same truth, right?
That's not true. Your understanding of the book make it not that way.
Okay, so
But the thing
I'll
is
give you a
that it's
definition.
always
Sorry, I'll give you an example, right? The Bible claims that Jesus was crucified. The Quran makes an opposite statement to that. It doesn't say that Jesus was crucified. In fact, it says he was substituted for Judas and he was taken up into heaven. So these are two contradictory statements.
no, according to your understanding. So when
Okay,
you
how would you
understand
understand that?
crucifixion, so when you understand crucifixion, right, it doesn't mean that basically I'm gonna go basically get put on a cross and nailed to this cross. Otherwise, the saints that basically supposed to follow Christ and put on his garments, they wouldn't be able to carry that cross every day, would they? Or they'd be nailed to it. Because they wouldn't be able to carry it if you were nailed to it every day. So the cross represents shame. Because basically, when I come and tell you that the Son of Man is on the earth today, and his name is Yaju Judah,
Okay,
the
so
first thing
you're
you're
not
going to
really
say
explaining
is
the
that you're
contradiction.
crazy.
Hold on.
You're going to
You're
say
not
you're
really explaining
crazy,
the
and this is being
contradiction.
put to earth. I'm sorry, say that again.
You're not really explaining the contradiction. So the Bible
I'm not. I'm trying
explicitly,
to tell you,
I
but you
know, but
just
you're
talked
talking
over me.
more so about something that we symbolically do, right? But I'm talking about the actual crucifixion of Christ on the cross, which is fact. That's why I'm saying truth has to be exclusive,
That's
right?
not fact. That's not fact.
Says who?
Now, I want you to tell me in the Bible, where does it say that he was crucified 2,000 years ago? I can tell you in the Bible where it reads that he would come in the last days.
Yes, that's when he returns. Was he
Yeah,
crucified
hold on,
2,000
hold
years
on,
ago?
hold on,
Absolutely.
hold on, hold on. The Bible is a prophecy book, brother. This is why you're not
No.
supposed to put your private interpretation on the
Hold on.
prophecy of the book.
Hold on. Do you think it's limited to just prophecy or was it also a historical book?
There's some history in there, yes, but the history
Well, it's
that
all
you've been
history
given
and there's
is
prophecies as
incorrect.
well.
The history part of it is that God would scatter his people, right?
Wait,
Has
you can't
God
pick and choose
has
which part's history. So is the crucifixion
no,
history?
does that sound like history?
I'm not saying it's not.
Does
I'm saying you can't pick and choose. So see what you said?
no.
That's history, right? I agree with you.
So
But the
yeah, and you
crucifixion
agree.
also is history, right?
No, because it basically happens in the last days. So Christ is the redeemer of his people, correct? I'm asking a question of you now. Is Christ a redeemer?
We're not going to keep jumping questions until we answer one by one. I will answer any question you
Okay,
like,
so
but we've got
I
to stick to the
answered your
topic.
question. I
We've got
didn't
to stick
answer
to
it the
the
way
topic
you
so we're
wanted.
not jumping
Okay,
around.
let's go slow.
Okay? Is that cool?
That's cool.
All right. So let's go one by one. Is it a historical fact that Jesus of Nazareth was crucified?
No, it's not.
Okay. Why not?
Because Christ comes in the last days. The book, see, this is what I was telling you about earlier, that man put his interpretation on the prophecy of the book, right? We were supposed to let every man be a liar and God be true. This is like elementary, right? Because God would anoint a person just like he did Noah in the day, right? As in the days of Noah, so shall it be in the days of the Son of Man. God would anoint the vessel to put his spirit in. Jesus wasn't with Noah, right? He would also put his vessel, put his spirit in Moses. Is that correct? Yes, because he led his people out of Egypt. So God doesn't change. He uses a fleshly man, and that fleshly man becomes the vessel that God would basically put his spirit in, because we're his creation. It's not the book. The book is not flesh.
Okay.
Remember, the word was
I'm
made
gonna
flesh.
chime in here. Yeah. So I asked you if it was a historical fact, and then you went on to start preaching about something that doesn't have anything to do with the question. I asked you if the crucifixion is a historical fact. The
I
crucifixion
said no.
is, hold on.
And I said
Well,
no.
you didn't answer, so I'm going to answer now, right? So the crucifixion historically virtually all critical historians, Christians, Jews, agnostics, atheists, they all accept this historical fact that Jesus was crucified. Even the Romans talked about how Jesus was crucified. So it's not even just the Christians who talk about it. All the secular scholars and historians, they all testify that Jesus Christ of Nazareth, he was crucified. And there are so many different facts as to why he was crucified. So basically 95% of people, historians and all secular scholars, they all say that he was crucified, and they give you the facts as to why he was crucified. So number one, we believe by the Bible because the accounts tell us so. You can go to all 4 accounts, it testifies of the actual crucifixion of Christ. Then you can go into Paul's letters and everywhere else, talks about the crucifixion of Christ. Then when you leave from there, 1st, 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th century, they all talk about the crucifixion of Christ. Even up till today, where you got someone like Bart Ehrman, who's, you know, a critical historian, scholar of the Bible, who doesn't believe in the things of the Bible, but he's a historian as well. He will tell you that is an absolute fact. So I'm trying to understand from your perspective when you just go on and start preaching and say, well, it can't be, but then you provide no evidence.
Okay, so you want evidence.
Please.
So you're looking for a sign that basically Jesus Christ, you want me to prove that your Jesus came 2,000 years ago. I can't prove that he came 2,000 years ago. I can tell you that God dwelt with man and God left man. See, Jesus would represent a fleshly vessel. God
Brother,
is spirit.
I just need evidence that he was crucified.
Hold on. I'm going to ask you a question because you didn't answer
but you're not
question.
answering the question.
Does God anoint
We're still on the
Christ,
same question.
Or does Christ anoint
Hold on,
God?
I'm going to let you
Listen.
speak, but I just want to make it very clear. Do you have any evidence that Jesus was crucified on the cross?
Did you just hear what you asked me?
Do you have any evidence that he was not crucified on the cross? Sorry, my bad.
The evidence is that basically there's no information about Jesus on this earth where they say he was crucified. That was all made up. See, this is the part that you're not getting. The Bible comes from Ethiopia, right? That's where the Solomonic dynasty is. That's where King David's throne is. Over 150 kings and queens sat on those thrones. This is a tangible fact, right? This is where the Solomonic dynasty is.
So you don't have any evidence?
That's the evidence, brother. If you want evidence, hard evidence.
So
and
Jesus wasn't crucified on the cross just because you don't believe it.
Think about this.
After I just presented to you all the facts.
You're a scholar, right?
Right?
Are you a scholar? You're considered
historians
a scholar?
and scholars. I appeal to them, and I look at their work, and they tell us about it, right? So when you look at people like Paula Fredrickson, this is the person who's devoted their life into understanding these things, and this is a secular historian. They don't believe in this is a Jew, doesn't believe in the resurrection of Christ, doesn't believe in the Messiah or anything like that, but they go by facts. So these guys who pour their life into this, they can tell you that this was a historical fact. The method was crucifixion, Roman style, all that kind of stuff. So if people who aren't Christians testify that the crucifixion actually happened, I'm trying to wonder how you just come along and say, no, it didn't happen. And then you go off and start talking about something else.
All right. So I'm going to say, listen to this part. It did not happen. The Bible comes from Ethiopia. It's talking about end time prophecies. There's no dates in the Bible. The only date in the Bible are the last days and end times. This represents Christ coming and God choosing a vessel to lead us out of captivity that we put ourselves in. See, that mind has to be renewed. And the only way that you can get it is to be a sheep that hears his voice. Because if you can't hear a voice like you hear my voice.
So you just wanted to preach, or you don't want to actually discuss this intellectually?
No, I told you that it's an end time prophecy.
Yeah, sure. I'm sure it is. I'm sure it is, man.